Thanks for joining us. I'm Randall Bennett. The PS3 has been out for a couple years now, but its predecessor, the PS2, has still managed to outsell it for almost every month. This month, numbers came out, and it was actually worse than people were expecting. The PS2 had outpaced. It actually had grew since last year in total sales, while the PS3 had shrunk about 38% since last year from month-to-month sales. Now, all these numbers don't mean as much to people, but let's think about the future for a second. And to do that, we bring in some great technology analysts. We have Molly Wood from CNET. Molly, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Also, we have Chris Spera from Gear Diary. Chris, thanks for being with us as well.
Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about this. I mean, obviously, people don't really care about the numbers as much, the nitty-gritty. But what this really speaks for is Sony's huge loss they had this quarter, and they're not really setting things up well for the future if the PS3 can't even outsell the PS2. Molly, what's your take on this? Do you think that Sony's in trouble, or what do you think people are going to do?
Well, I have to say that I have just been baffled on an ongoing basis by Sony's refusal to drop that PS3 price. I just don't understand what they're thinking, because they've been getting maybe one or two consistent messages from users over and over and over. And the first is that the PS3 is too expensive, and the second is that there aren't enough games for the PS3. And so they have to work on solving one of those problems, and ideally both. Otherwise, I guess they can rest on the PS2 laurels. I just don't understand what they're thinking at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting to realize you should really change what you can control, and that's really the only thing that can control is the price. Chris, what's your take on this?
Personally, I don't think that the PS2 or the PS3 offers more over and above than the PS2. Most people are going to want to go ahead and play games. They're going to maybe want to watch a movie, maybe try doing some gaming over the internet, and the PS2 offers all of that, but at a much lower price. And as Molly said, the PS3 is just way too in the nosebleed seats.
So how do you think this compares to the Wii? I mean, if you're talking, obviously the PS3 does have some big advantages like Blu-ray and media streaming over the internet. Chris, do you think that this is more of a Wii competitor, or do you think that's kind of the arena that this is fighting for?
I'm not exactly sure. Personally, I'm not a real big gamer. We have a Wii at the house, and honestly, I love the accelerometer thing with the controller.
Yeah.
But I'm not 100% sold on where the PS3 really wants to go. I don't know if it.
I think that's really speaking to average consumers, right? Average consumers don't really get it.
Right. The average consumer is not going to pay for it.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. The PS3 has been positioned as a device for hardcore gamers. And so if you have a price-sensitive mainstream, once you've sold all the devices you're going to sell to hardcore gamers and people who are serious videophiles, then you can't sell a $400 piece of equipment to the mainstream based on the strength of a couple pretty hardcore games and then the promise of like slightly better looking DVDs. Blu-ray has that problem anyway.
Yeah.
And when you package the whole PS3 thing together and say it's $400, it's a no-brainer. Of course no one's going to buy that thing.
It's kind of interesting, the Blu-ray, and really Sony's attitude in general has kind of been indicative of this. We know what's best for you. Let us show you what's best for you instead of listening to consumers. And I mean, obviously, like you said, Molly, this really just speaks to that. Let's switch gears for a second and talk wireless. So, we've seen 3G rollouts on all the major phones from all the major carriers. We're seeing, this with the pre-launch coming up. Sprint will have its preeminent device, pardon the pun, as a 3G capable handset. Obviously, early adopters like myself have been excited about 3G, but are regular people starting to get into the 3G game? And even looking down the road, Verizon today announced that they're going to be speeding up development of their 4G network, which is using the LTE technology, around 2012, 2013, in that range. Chris, are regular people excited about 3G? Do they even know what it is? And I don't know, what do you think about the future of wireless data?
Wireless data. I live and breathe by wireless data. I use it all the time, every day. A lot. If I don't have it, I'm in serious trouble. Personally, I don't think that the mainstream really has any idea what 3G is or what it really means to them. Here, I live in Chicago, and here I've got some of the spottiest coverage going in and out of town on one of the major rail lines. It's just absolutely, positively horrible. I really don't even have serious 2G or 2.5G, which is edge coverage, on the AT&T network. It's really non-consistent and very patchy. I don't see the implementation of 4G as making any sort of an impact with, the mainstream anytime soon.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't even really have a good handle on what 3G is going to give them, and now we're going to give them something supposed better than that. I mean, again, at an increased cost. I don't think so.
Are you an iPhone user? can I assume from your AT&T reference?
I sold my iPhone 3G.
Oh, really? Wow.
I got rid of it because it dropped one too many calls.
I mean, and that's the thing. I think a lot of people, being that it's called the iPhone 3G, regular people might understand a little bit better what 3G is. Molly, what's your take? Do you think regular people are getting wireless data at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think that certainly smartphone adoption is on the rise, but it's such a small percentage still of the number of people who have cell phones. So I think Chris is right that it is meaningless to people in the sense that what they really want at this point is reliable service from anyone. And so at the point at which you're talking about 3G, and most people aren't getting 3G because the coverage is so bad and the networks are so weak and fragile, it's definitely not enticing. That is not the thing that is enticing them to get smartphones or to talk a lot about wireless data and want that. But the fact is that wireless data it's something that the mainstream wants. They just kind of don't know it yet.
Yeah.
And so it's, if we see a rollout of a truly robust wireless broadband network that is fast and trustworthy, then people will love that. But again, they're not going to care if it's WiMAX or LTE or 4G or 3G. They're just going to care that texts go really fast now.
So if you had one message to send to the carriers, Molly, what would be your one, do this or else this is going to fail?
Step it up. I've been so furious with AT&T and my iPhone lately. I find it really unconscionable. You've just kicked off a rant that I've been on for about 3 days. I find it unconscionable, the level of service that they continue to deliver. It is astonishing to me that cell phone coverage is still as bad as it is, whether you're talking about voice or data, and particularly voice. And the fact that they get away with that and charge what they charge for texts and for voice and for data delivery is ludicrous. And step it up, or people are going to start moving to networks and widespread Wi-Fi. It's just, or to netbooks rather. It's just not. This is an unacceptable level of service from pretty much every carrier.
And the crazy thing is, too, we're not talking about small towns here. We're talking about San Francisco in your case, Molly, and Chicago in your case, Chris. This isn't limited to the backwoods of Kentucky or whatever. I'm sure that they are experiencing order of magnitude worse problems than this.
No, I bet they have better service. I actually think that they have better service. I think these networks are basically so fragile. They're like the little Fabergé eggs. And once you get too many people doing the same thing all at once, which is data, which they should have seen coming because smartphone adoption was predicted for the last few years, these networks have basically shattered in terms of their robustness, and it's ridiculous.
Guys, it's interesting stuff. We're going to have to leave it there, though, because we're out of time. Molly Wood from CNET, thanks for being with us. It's bol.c, or no, you're not on Buzz. You do the Buzz Report.
Yeah, sometimes. CNETTV.com.
CNETTV.com is the place for Molly. And also Chris Spera from Gear Diary. It's geardiary.com. I'm Randall Bennett for TechV. Thanks for joining us. We're on iTunes, and subscribe to us. What do you say? Take it easy. Later.